Aloha. Mahalo for this opportunity. When I think about different parts of my life, there are certain foods that stand out in my mind, and they're really all about connection to ohana. As a little kid, the only thing I can remember eating for breakfast at my grandparents' house before school is juk. It's just such a comfort food. I don't even make it for myself today. My dad or auntie will make it like if the weather gets cold. And I kind of feel like a little kid when I eat it still. Before I left for college on the continent, I asked my uncle to teach me how to make chicken heka because I wanted to be able to make it for myself while I was away. And so he taught me in a walk on a propane burner at Ala Beach Park. And that was probably my last beach barbecue before I left that summer. I've been home for about 15 years now. And for almost 10 of those years, I've been trying to do justice to my Grandma Mickey's nishime. It just got to be too much for her arthritic hands to chop. And there's so much chopping. I almost can't handle it myself. But it's become a little bit of a seasonal obsession. My week between Christmas and New Year's is planned around a strategically timed trip to Marukai. Like, how late can I go that the stuff will still be fresh and the gobo won't get limp, but the bins won't be too empty and the parking lot and the store won't be like too nuts. So for the nishime itself, I have to admit it's super inconsistent. It shows what a bad culinary student I am. It's very embarrassing that Robin is like right here. But I can't handle the instructions like 2 swirls of mirin. Like, are they fast swirls or slow swirls? Like big swirls or small swirls? So, but for at least 1 year, I got an immediate oishi from Grandma Mickey, and that just felt like everything. So for the past couple of years, the real prominent food has been kalo. I have this memory of bringing pa'iai to my grandma Elsie. So this is my Hawaiian Filipino grandma, the juk grandma actually. And this is pre-nishime days with Grandma Mickey. So it was kind of a while ago. But so I brought Grandma Elsie this pa'iai and she didn't know what it was. And she didn't know what I was talking about when I said I had brought her pa'iai. And I don't remember much more about that encounter, like the details of the day, but I remember the way that I felt, and I feel it right now just talking about it. My confusion, surprise, a little bit embarrassment. Grandma Elsie's half Hawaiian, her ohana's from Ka'u, but she was hanai'd by a Chinese family. One story I love about her is how she could understand and speak Chinese, so she looked like a Hawaiian Filipino lady, girl, going into Chinatown, but she could like turn around and talk back to the shopkeepers if she felt like they were being sneaky or talking behind her back. So I think in that moment with the pa'iai, in that time of my life, I hadn't made the connection between my family's history and Grandma Elsie's circumstances in particular. I hadn't connected those things to these like big important ideas that were really central to the work as I was getting passionate about Loko Iʻa, working at Paepae o Heʻeia. These concepts like loss of language, displacement from land, severed connections from our native food systems. I hadn't connected those things to like me and my story. And I guess the way that those abstract, like kind of scary, philosophical kind of sounding things, the way they manifest in a real life family, it looks and feels like this. A grandchild brings her grandparent a form of a sacred, staple food, they say, of the grandparent's homeland, and the grandparent doesn't recognize it or even know the words for it. I wish Grandma Elsie was around nowadays. She passed away in 2016, but coming back to the past couple of years, it's just been crazy times, right? But there's been this silver lining for me and my ohana. I found out I was Hawaii maybe 2 weeks before the first COVID restrictions were put in place. And me and my kane Brandon, we had already started to Mālama Lo'i in Heʻeia a few months before. But so in 2020, that really became a safe space for us. We stayed super close to home and hardly saw family and friends. No one saw my cute baby mom. But we went Hawaii every weekend. And we never thought we would be doing something like that. Neither of us had ever dreamed or hoped to do anything like that. We were both primarily ocean people, but sure enough, we started to be able to harvest kalo and feed ourselves, feed our ohana, feed our friends, our neighbors. In 2021, Brandon really wanted to ku'i kalo for baby's first food. And I'm so stoked on that now, looking back on it. And so proud of him and proud of us that we were able to do that. Give her this food that we had cared for and prepared for her. I'm really happy that we can offer her that relationship to Haloa and Aina in a way that my tutu didn't have. And now lots of my family come and help us, so that's like a whole new layer of reconnection and good juju, just all the good things. So I did want to take some of this opportunity that I have to mahalo Heʻeia, its Akua and Kupuna, Kako'o Oiwi and the team there, because this closing of the circle and reconnection couldn't have been possible for my ohana without that aina and clean water and the people that malama those things. And I know my story isn't terribly unique. There are ohana throughout Hawaii and beyond whose these relationships to land and language and food that have been severed for generations, those things can't be healed without those kinds of places and their kia'i. There are hui and ohana all over the place reactivating aina, and I first found that reactivation in Loko Iʻa, and I'm so fortunate that I get to continue that work in many ways. But did just want to mahalo everyone who works in those movements. So the circumstances of the past couple of weird years definitely made all of that possible for us, and I'm grateful for that. But one thing I do miss from like pre-COVID days is our changmang tradition. So before 2020, my aunties had started to teach me and my cousins how to get everything ready to go to the graveyard, which shops to go to in Chinatown, make sure to visit the sisters whose mom was friends with Grandma Elsie, how to prepare all the appropriate foods, all 5 courses. Don't forget any of the supplies, the little table, small cups. You cannot forget the lighter, coffee can with the fire starter. And we carry on this tradition because of Grandma Elsie, and I'm really grateful to her Hanai family who passed that to us through her. I love the ritual of honoring and caring for our ancestors in such a physical way. We're bringing them food that it gets heated up in the morning. We heat up the food in the morning to bring to the graveyard. They get clothes, spending money for the year. They get 2 servings of tea and liquor. And it just feels so good to like malama and just bring things that nourish people. And so if we're able to go to the graveyard in person this year, I'll definitely be bringing pa'iai, and I hope that all my kupuna can enjoy it together. Mahalo for listening.